Breaking Bad, the main season. It begins to Walter White, a 50-year-old secondary school science instructor confronting an emotional meltdown, finds out he has stage 3 inoperable lung disease, cellular breakdown in the lungs. Inoperable. He stays quiet about the report from his pregnant spouse Skyler and their young child Walter Jr. Walt attempts alongside his brother by marriage DEA specialist Hank Schrader on a pace of a methamphetamine lab in which they get a cook vendor named Emilio. Walt sees his previous understudy turned meth cook vendor Jesse Pinkman got away from the attack. Walt acknowledges he can utilize his insight of science to cook meth and make enough to help his family. After he bites the dust, he enrolls Jesse's assistants and they start cooking in the far-off region of the desert in a RV they purchase. The pair make an unadulterated pure type of gem meth. Jesse attempts to sell the meth they made, and one of the vendors is his ex-accomplice Emilio, who powers Jesse to show them the lab. Emilio perceives Walt from the D-Strike, furthermore thumps Jesse oblivious for deceiving him, all the while assuming a pretense of showing them his recipe. Walt harms them with phosphine gas, knowing the sellers expect to kill him. Walt and Jesse attempted to discard the 2 bodies in the RV, which becomes progressively confounded when one of them, Insane 8, awakens and get away. Walt tracks down him, scarcely cognizant, strolling along the road, and places him in his vehicle. They at last detained him in Jesse's cellar. In the meantime, Skyler becomes dubious of Walt's new conduct. She got some information about Jesse and Walt covers by telling her that Jesse sells him cannabis. Skyler visits Jesse and undermines. Yes, he discards Emilio's body utilizing hydrofluoric corrosive as Walt teaches. However, he disregards Walt's admonition to utilize a plastic canister and utilizations his bath. All things considered, bringing about a weighty. Tidied up 2 youngsters playing in the desert region where the RV had been. Find a gas veil that Walt and Jesse left there. Skyler's sister Marie trusts that Walter Jr. is partaking in Mary Jane and inquires Hank to unnerve him straight. Hank takes Walt Jr. to a medication house to instruct him about addictive substances. Walt and Jesse tidied up the remaining parts of Emilio. Walt is torn between whether to keep Insane 8 alive or kill him. While bringing Insane 8 food, he falls while slipping the steps. After awakening, Walt tells Insane 8 that he has cellular breakdown in the lungs. The main individual he tells, and they begin sharing the startling things they share. For all intents and purpose, Walt chooses to deliver Insane 8. However, while discarding the shards of a broken plate, he sees that a shark is missing and understands that Insane 8 has disguised it to use as a weapon. At the point when Walt faces Insane 8 with this data, Insane 8 assaults him, so Walt chokes and kills him with the bike. That evening, when Walter returns home, he lets Skyler know that he has something to tell her. His disease determination. As Jesse and Walt Smith starts to spread in Albuquerque, Hank begins searching for the new medication boss. Ignorant that it's Walt at a family grill, 3-step dance uncovers to Walt Jr. Marie and Hank that he has disease. Hank guarantees Walt that he will continuously deal with his family. Walt Jr. becomes vexed that Walt is behaving like everything is ordinary. Jesse becomes distrustful that policing later him, and he visits his family's home. Jesse's folks are frustrated and stressed to see him in such a state. Jesse figures out that his more youthful sibling, who is exceptionally effective in sports and music, is partaking in cannabis to manage the serious tension from their folks. Jesse covers for him, however, is compelled to take off from his folks' house as they accept the weed is here. Jesse visits Walt to attempt to persuade him they ought to cook, yet Walt tells him never to attempt to see him once more. Try not to return. Walt and Skyler visit an oncologist who says Walt's disease is treatable. Skyler is confident, yet Walt doesn't think seeking treatment is monetarily possible. Jesse becomes disappointed that he can't secure stable work. Walt and Skyler go to Walt's close buddy Elliot's birthday. Skyler tells Elliot about Walt's malignant growth and Elliot offers him a task which Walt declines, feeling offended about a proposal of monetary help. Jesse endeavors to cook meth on his own yet can't recreate the nature of Walt's item. Walt Jr. gets found out by an secret cop attempting to purchase brew and calls Hank to save him rather than walk. Walt's family endeavors a mediation to convince him to go through chemotherapy. Marie says everybody ought to allow Walt to make the choice all alone until researchers alarm. The following morning he yields and tells Skyler he will acknowledge Gretchen and Elliot's help anyway. He calls Gretchen, who he used to have a relationship with, to tell that it isn't required, lying that his protection in fact covers treatment. He goes to Jesse's house and requests to continue their association. Need to cook. Walt and Jesse come to an understanding in which Walt will cook the meth while Jesse sells it. In the interim, Hank ties a recuperated respirator to Walt's secondary school's science lab and examines further. Hank erroneously captures the school janitor, who has a crook record for drug ownership. Subsequent to finding the beginning of going bald, Walt shaves his head at the point when their underlying clump of meth as it where yields $2,600. Jesse's companion Thin Pete helps him find the merchant who supplanted Insane 8, 2 nuts and a ball sack psychopathic medication master Tuco Salamanca. Unfamiliar at the point when Jesse requests forthright installment for the meth. Tuco rather beats him and takes the meth. Walt later defies Tuco himself and causes a blast in his refuge. It's not meth driving him to pay for the fantasy. Tuco consents to additional dealings with Walt. 1 pound won't cut it. You need to take 2. Walt and Jesse face hardships creating the huge sum of meth Walt has vowed to Tuco. Walt furthermore Jesse break into a distribution center and take an enormous barrel of methylamine which they need for another recipe that creates considerably more meth and much examples. They convey the guaranteed sum to Tuco and his partners Nodos and Gonzo at the point when No Portion offers a casual comment to walk to. Koba comes in fury and viciously beats him before the shock stroll in Jesse Discord.